If you're watching this, there's a good chance that you've already had a bank account closed or you're worried about an account closure. In either case, I'm going to share some insights that I haven't said before on video, including the most common reasons that we see accounts getting closed, the 3 most important things we tell our clients not to do after a closure, and the steps that you can take to try and reopen your account. And my hope is that with all this information, you'll be able to reopen that closed account or avoid account closures in the first place. Now, in case this is your first time on the channel, my name is Chris. I'm the head of banking relationships at GlobalBanks. We help investors, entrepreneurs, and businesses navigate cross-border banking and financial services, and a lot of our clients first come to us after they've had an account closure, asking for help to reopen those closed accounts or open new accounts at banks that better understand their risk profile. So we're very familiar with helping people navigate account closures in most major banking hubs. Now, if you've had an account closed, it's obviously a huge pain, an administrative hassle, and it's probably going to cause some headaches for you over the coming days, maybe even coming weeks. But in almost every case that we've seen, there are other banking options available, which means the worst case scenario is you have to open an account with a new bank. And the best case scenario is you're able to reactivate your current account, ideally with a short turnaround. Now, how short? It depends on a few factors, including the reason that the account was closed in the first place, which we'll dig into in a minute, and of course, your overall profile from a compliance perspective, whether that's your personal profile or a company profile. The point is, you're gonna have options, and if you do have to open a new account, it might not be the worst thing because then you can focus on finding a bank that understands your risk profile better than your current banking relationship. That way, you don't have to deal with account closures again anytime soon. Now, before I share the 3 things that we tell our clients not to do after a closure or an account freeze, let's talk through the most common reasons that we see accounts getting closed. And these reasons, they apply to both individuals and businesses. But I also want to add that it's not just behaviors or activities of account holders that are driving closures. There's also a macro layer here, which has been resulting in a more aggressive approach to account closures. And that's the broad stroke de-risking that we've seen across the banking industry for the last 5 years. Now, there are different reasons for this, ranging from increased compliance expenses to how governments and regulators have been liberally handing out massive financial penalties to banking institutions around the world. And this is resulting in clients getting stuck in the middle and accounts being closed when they don't fit into the cookie cutter mold of what compliance departments say a good customer looks like. But let's get specific. What are the most common reasons that compliance teams close accounts? Well, there are 5 main reasons that we see when clients come to us after an account closure. The first reason, which is completely outside of your control, is when the bank changes strategy internally. This can be as simple as no longer supporting clients from a specific country or region, maybe no longer supporting clients with a certain source of wealth, think crypto or commodities, gambling. There are lots of reasons for this. And a recent example of this is Mercury, when they changed strategy and added 17 new countries to their prohibited countries list. And this resulted in account closures for businesses from all over the world. Now, not surprisingly, the catalyst for this, they can come from within the bank, or they can be spurred on by regulatory changes like a country being blacklisted, or even a shift in sentiment around a specific industry, like mining or gambling. But another major change that can also happen internally is that banks raise the minimum balance requirement for specific profiles. We've seen this happen at major banks in Switzerland, the United States, and many other jurisdictions over the last few years. And if that happens, there's not much that you can do, since the closure was triggered by a bank change, not an action that you took. So if you fall into this category, and there's no path for you to be reconsidered, for example, by increasing your relationship balance to meet the new requirements, then you're better off just contacting our team and getting help opening an account at a bank that better matches your profile. Okay, now the next reason that accounts get closed, it's because of unusual transaction activity. You probably saw this one coming. In fact, this is probably the most common reason that we see accounts getting closed, and it can be as simple as sending or receiving transfers to a country that is outside the bank's risk tolerance, or sending and receiving transfers to a person or company that shares a name with someone on a watch list or compliance database. Or it might not have anything to do with where or who the transactions involve, and instead it might just be the value or frequency of the transactions being sent. This can include sending a very large transaction compared to your normal transaction activity, or even sending many small transactions back to back. Another example would be sending multiple transactions just below a perceived reporting threshold, like $10,000, in order to avoid reports being filed, which would be suspicious and could result in the account being closed. Now, if your account is frozen, closed, or even just put under review for any of these transaction-related reasons, you will usually have a chance to clarify with supporting documents, assuming it wasn't something that obviously warrants a closure. And that brings us to the next reason why accounts get closed, which is not responding to bank requests. This one, it always surprises us. For whatever reason, certain people think it's better to not respond to a bank's request for information, and instead they just ignore the bank. or they think they're smarter than the compliance team and give incredibly vague answers, which basically kills their chances of keeping the account open because they just missed the one opportunity that they actually had to provide evidence in their favor. Now, I'm not saying as soon as the bank emails or calls you that you should rush in and give them all of the information that they're asking for on the fly and without thinking. You shouldn't. You need to be considerate, and you need to make sure you're providing them with the right information, which can be a delicate balance to strike. And frankly, it raises an important question. Should you overshare or should you undershare? In both instances, you risk the bank closing the account because you either provide too much detail or you don't give them enough information to answer their questions. And it's tough to say what the right approach for you is going to be, because in the end, it really depends on the situation, whether the account is frozen or has it already been closed, and the trigger for the questions in the first place, which you won't always know. Now, the final reason for account closure that we do see regularly is one that is fully within your control, and it's something that most people can remedy right away. But before I share this one with you, if you're getting any value out of this video, can you do me a favor and give this video a like? That way we know to keep making more videos like this for you in the future. Okay, so the final reason for account closures that we're going to cover is accessing your account from new locations. And what I'm really talking about here is new international locations, so a new IP address in a new country. This can raise red flags for a bank. And while they're not necessarily monitoring to see if you're off traveling around the world, if you start accessing your account from a wide range of different countries or just the wrong countries, it can cause concerns for the bank. When you applied, you claimed to be a resident of one place, or that your business operated from a specific country, but clearly the account is being accessed from a different country. So, what's the easy fix? Well, most people can probably guess. It's to access the bank using a consistent IP address, which you can do pretty easily with a VPN. So those are the 4 most common reasons that we see accounts getting closed. Now, let's talk about the 3 most important things not to do if your bank contacts you to let you know that your account has been frozen, under investigation, or has been closed. First, do not panic. Even in the worst case scenario, you're gonna have other banking options. Second, do not immediately respond to the bank, either by email or phone. Just wait, and I'll tell you why in a second. And third, do not immediately provide the bank with any supporting information or documents. Yes, in almost all cases, if the bank asks you questions or requests supporting documentation, then you will need to contact the bank and provide that information. But I promise you, the compliance team, they're not sitting around their computers waiting for you to email them back. They probably have hundreds of other cases that they're dealing with at the exact same time. So it's better to collect yourself, your thoughts, and any relevant documents that you can provide to clarify and hopefully reconcile any concerns that they might have from a compliance perspective. And if you take this more measured, less rushed approach, you'll have a better chance of clearly communicating your case, and you might even earn yourself a second look from the compliance team. That way, you can keep your account open. Now, I will say, if your account is just frozen and hasn't officially been closed, this approach that I'm outlining can work. But if your account has been formally closed, your chances of reopening it are very low. On top of that, banks almost never tell people why an account is being closed. Instead, they usually just issue a generic statement, something like the account's risk profile no longer aligns with the bank's tolerance. And when that happens, you won't really have much of an opportunity to combat the closure since the bank isn't giving you any direction on why the account has been closed. Now, on the plus side, when an account is closed like that, the bank usually provides you with a period of time to move the funds elsewhere. This can be a couple of weeks on the retail banking side, or it can be up to a few months on the private banking side. It basically just depends on the bank, the value of the account, and even the reason for the closure. So if you do have an account closure that you can't come back from, what do? Well, the simple answer is you open a new bank account. Where and how is obviously going to depend on a number of different factors, from the type of account, meaning personal or business, the countries involved in terms of transaction activity, account holders, shareholders, etc., the source of income or wealth, and even the risk profile of the applicant. And these are all variables that we help our clients navigate through our account opening services, which you can learn more about at globalbanks.com/products. But I also want to give you a hand navigating your options on your own, especially if you're currently dealing with an account closure and trying to figure out the next steps. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share 2 actionable videos with you in a second. The first video is going to give you 6 of the easiest places to open a bank account right now, which will hopefully be helpful if you're in a time crunch and need to get an account open to meet any immediate financial obligations. And the second video, it's going to give you 5 of the best banking hubs that we think are worth considering today, which is for anyone that has a bit more time, maybe 2 weeks to a month, in order to open a longer term account. But before I share these, please make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you get alerted whenever we post new banking videos. All right, thanks for watching. You can grab the 6 easiest places to open bank accounts right here, and you can grab 5 of the best places to open bank accounts today right over here. So go ahead, choose the video that's best for you, and I'll see you over there right now.